Before we get into the video, I just want to say thanks for 100 subscribers. This is cool. Welcome to the Purplish tournament. This is a tournament that I've created, and I think it'd be a cool idea for YouTube. It's going to be over 6 rounds, and today is round 1. So obviously all 32 teams are going to be in this tournament, and only one will win. There's 6 rounds. I don't know if I said already, but I just said it again. So there's 6 rounds. Today is round 1, and I'm going to explain you the rules of round 1. So basically each team will play their divisional rival based on how they did. So like the division winner will play the worst in that division, and then the other 2 teams will play each other. And then the winners of those games will go to a winner's game, and the losers of those games will go to a loser game. The winner will the winner of the winner's game will move on to round 3 automatically, and the loser will go to the 3rd game. The winner of the loser's game will go to the 3rd game, and the loser of the loser's game will be eliminated. Then the only 2 teams remaining will then go and play each other, and the winner will go to round 2, and the loser is eliminated. So this should leave 16 teams, with 8 of them in round 2 and 8 of them in round 3. And let's get into it. Our first division is going to be the AFC East. Like I had just said, the AFC East will be the first division. The first 2 games will be between the Bills and Jets, and then the Dolphins and the Patriots. The Bills will go on to win against the Jets 56-13, and the Patriots will go on to beat the Dolphins 31-26. Our second games in the AFC East will be between the Bills versus the Patriots, and then the Dolphins versus the Jets. The Bills will go on to beat the Patriots 24-6, which puts the Bills in round 3, and the Patriots will move on to game 3. The Dolphins will then play the Jets, where the Dolphins will win 28-13, putting the Dolphins in game 3, and the Jets are going to be eliminated from the tournament. The final game in the AFC East will be between the Dolphins and the Patriots, which is a rematch from game 1. This time the Dolphins will win, and it will be 24-12, which puts the Dolphins in round 2, and the Patriots will be eliminated. The next division is the AFC North, and the first 2 games in the AFC North will be between the Bengals and the Browns, and my favorite team, the Ravens, will play the Steelers. The Bengals will win their game pretty easily against the Browns with a score of 42-13. The next game is actually where we finally get content between the Ravens and the Steelers. On the first play, Kenny Pickett will throw to Johnson for a gain of 9. The Steelers will then go for a no huddle, and Pickett will complete a pass for a first down again. Pickett will again go for another completion, and now Pittsburgh will go for a kick, and they will make it, which gives them the win over Baltimore. The next 2 games will be between the Bengals and Steelers in the winner's game, and the Browns and Ravens in a loser's game. The Steelers and Bengals game ends with a kick for Pittsburgh, giving them the win over the Bengals with a score of 24-21. This means that the Steelers will move on to the round 3, and the Bengals will go to game 3. The next game is between the Ravens and the Browns in the losers game, where the Browns will beat Baltimore by a touchdown, winning with a score of 35-28. The Browns move on to game 3, and the Ravens are sadly eliminated. The final game in the AFC North is between the Bengals and the Browns, another game 1 rematch. And the Bengals will show that their first win wasn't luck, as they beat the Browns again, this time with a score of 38-22. This will put the Bengals in round 2, and the Browns are eliminated. Division 3 of the video will be the AFC South, and the first 2 games in the division will be the Jags versus the Texans and the Titans versus the Colts. The Jaguars will go on to beat the Texans with a score of 30-13 in their game. The Titans and Colts will give us a bit of content, as Nick Foles will throw the ball, which is caught, but falls short of the first down, giving the Titans the win over the Colts with a score of 24-16. The next 2 games will be between the Jaguars and the Titans in the winner's game, and the Texans versus the Colts in the loser's game. We will then transition over to the Titans and Jags game, which is tied 27-27. Lawrence will hand off the ball to ETN, and he will run all the way for a touchdown. This gives the Jags the win, and they will advance to round 3, whereas the Titans will go to game 3. The Colts and Texans game will end with a kick in favor of Houston, who will win the game 44-41. The Texans will move on to game 3, and the Colts are eliminated. The final game in the AFC South will be between the Titans and the Texans. Time will get away from the Texans, and the Titans will win the game 35-23. The Titans move on to round 2, and the Texans are eliminated. The fourth division will be the AFC West. The starting 2 games will be the Broncos and Chiefs, and the Chargers will play the Raiders. The Broncos will end up pulling an upset victory over the Chiefs with a whopping score of 40-20. The Chargers will also go crazy in their game as they will beat the Raiders 42-7. The next 2 games in the AFC West division will be the Broncos and Chargers in the winners game and the Chiefs and Raiders in the losers game. The Broncos will near their way to victory over the Chargers with a score of 29-21. The Broncos will move on to round 3, and the Chargers will go to game 3. The Chiefs will go on to win in the losers game with a score of 28-7 over the Raiders. The Chiefs move on to game 3, and the Raiders are eliminated. The final game as far as the AFC West goes will be between the Chargers and the Chiefs. The Chiefs will take care of business, winning the game with a score of 34-24. The Chiefs will move on to round 2, and the Chargers are eliminated. We have finally finished the AFC Conference, and now it's time to move on to the NFC. We will start with the NFC East. The first 2 games are going to be the Eagles and Commanders, and the Cowboys will play the Giants. With 4 seconds left on the clock, Jalen Hurts will throw to Goddard, but he could not get into the end zone. The Commanders win 23-16 against the Eagles. The Cowboys will kick a field goal in overtime, giving them a lead with a score of 26-23, and the Giants have one last chance. Unfortunately for them, though, they will not complete the 4th down conversion, and the Cowboys will win 26-23. The second 2 games will be the Commanders versus the Cowboys in the winners game, and the Eagles versus the Giants in the losers game. The Cowboys will beat the Commanders pretty easily with a score of 32-17. The Cowboys move on to round 3, and the Commanders will move to game 3. The Eagles are on 4th down again, and they need a first to stay in the game. Jalen Hurts will throw the ball to Goddard once again, and he will almost catch the ball, but he didn't. The Giants take over, and they will kneel the way to the win. The Giants move on to game 3, and the Eagles are surprisingly eliminated pretty early on. The final game for the NFC East is the Giants and the Commanders. The Commanders will end up coming out on top with a score of 20-14. The Commanders move on to round 2, and the Giants are eliminated. Division 6 of the video will be the NFC North. The first 2 games are the Vikings against the Bears, and the Lions versus the Packers. The Bears will end up beating the Vikings with a score of 31-17. The Packers will go on to beat the Lions with a score of 24-7. The second 2 games are going to be the Bears versus the Packers in the winners game, and the Vikings versus the Lions in the losers game. The Bears will beat the Packers 20-14. This means the Bears, the worst team in the league in real life, will move on to round 3, and the Packers will go to game 3. Then the Vikings will win a close one against the Lions with a score of 27-24. The Vikings move on to game 3, and the Lions are eliminated. The final game in the NFC North will be between the Vikings and the Packers. The game will end with the Vikings on top, winning 37-17. The Vikings move on to round 2, and the Packers are eliminated. It is now time for the NFC South section of the video, and the first 2 games will be the Buccaneers versus the Falcons, and the Panthers will play the Saints. The Falcons will go into Tampa and take care of business against the Bucks, winning with a score of 35-24. The Saints will also go on the road and win against the Panthers with a score of 23-17. The second two games in the NFC South will be the Falcons versus the Saints in the winner's game and the Buccaneers versus the Panthers in the loser's game. The Saints will show that they want to go straight to the third round, and they will beat the Falcons pretty easily with a score of 31-17. The Saints go to round 3, and the Falcons go to game 3. The Buccaneers will play a high-scoring game against the Panthers and end up on top. The score is 41-31, and the Bucs will go to game 3, and the Panthers are eliminated. The final game for the NFC South is the Falcons and Buccaneers, another Game 1 rematch. We start with the Buccaneers touchdown with 31 seconds left on the clock. We then fast forward a bit with the clock on 4 seconds, and the Falcons will line up to kick a field goal to tie the game, but they miss. The Bucs win with a score of 42-39, and the Bucs will go to round 2, while the Falcons are eliminated. The final division in this video is the NFC West. The first two games in the NFC West will be the 49ers versus the Cardinals and the Seahawks versus the Rams. The 49ers will beat the Seahawks with a score of 20-13 in a close game. The Rams will end up destroying the Seahawks with a score of 35-14. The second two games are going to be the 49ers versus the Rams in the winner's game, and the Cardinals versus the Seahawks in the loser's game. We visit the Rams and 49ers game with 27 seconds left on the clock and the Rams fourth down. Stafford hands off the ball and the Rams will get the first down. Next, Stafford throws to Akers, who is tackled with a face mask penalty, putting the Rams on the 6-yard line. Stafford will then throw a series of incompletions, so we'll just take it to the fourth down, where Stafford will throw again and complete it, but to the receiver in the red uniform. The 49ers will win the game and will advance to round 3, while the Rams go to game 3. The next game will be a win for the Cardinals with a score of 21-17. The Cardinals go to game 3, and the Seahawks are eliminated. The final game of the NFC West and of the video will be the Rams and the Cardinals. The game will end with the Rams' victory with the score of 30-13. The Rams will move on to the second round, and the Cardinals are eliminated. Don't pay attention to the lack of perfection on the screen. I don't really care that much. Anyway, thank you for watching the video, and look out for the second one, because this one actually will happen. I don't know what's going to happen with the 3 Life series, but the second part of this will actually happen, so stay tuned for that. Thanks. Bye.